Do you like pop culture?
I do.
I wasn't talking to you, Andrew.
Aw.
If you enjoy movies, television, all that kind of stuff, we have a lot of fun on Sif Pop Podcast, part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. So you can come check us out every week. You can listen live or just download it to your podcast feed.
Every single week, Aaron breaks down the newest movies that are big in theaters, and I make funny noises. You could probably pick one of those that you would like. You can join us every weekend live by looking at Spreaker.com/StudioDNA, or you can find us in your podcast player of preference by searching for Sift Pop.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 31 of Disney Plus Reviews. I'm one of your co-hosts, Phil Souza, and I'm here with my co-host, my good friend, and the guy who always puts his left foot out to the bighorn, right hand through to a little finger pocket, then you go left foot out to an edge around the corner. He always makes sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to do. It's Jack Altermat.
I have never watched a movie that made my hands sweat more than this movie. I'm sitting on the couch like a fatty, just sitting there, and I'm saying that, folks, because I am fat. I identify as a fat man. But I'm telling you right now, my hands, Phil, have never sweat more than watching this thing. And you're like, it makes your teeth like hurt to think about.
Yeah.
Why would you do this to yourself?
I don't know. And the thing is like, yes, he's in a very small elite group of climbers that will do like just the crazy things like this.
Yes.
However, there are like tens of thousands of people that climb rocks all the time. Like there's...
Yeah, I mean, it's an industry. It's
a massive industry.
And I'm saying it not because it's a business, but it is a business, but it's an industry. And therefore, that industry is driven by, a group of people that are willing to do the things and buy, a million carabiners. But this guy doesn't need carabiners. Is that the right word for what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, carabiners. There's a lot of lingo in this movie, by the way. Like that... Well, let's do the rigmarole and then we'll get into that. So if you're just joining us for this podcast, we are an unofficial Disney Plus podcast reviewing the most popular stuff on Disney Plus. And today we're doing, I'm so glad that we are breaking the mold, not just the Star Wars mold, we are breaking the fiction, like we're going documentary, full on documentary today. So I'm really excited about that. But we are reviewing Free Solo, which is a 2018, this didn't come out that long ago, a couple years ago. Documentary film that profiles rock climber Alex Honnold, I think is how you say his name, on his quest to perform a free solo climb of Yosemite's El Capitan mountain in June 2017. He became the first person in history, recorded history at least, recorded history, like I'm sure probably no one's ever done it before 1958, but the El Capitan in Yosemite was first successfully climbed in 1958 by a duo of guys. I didn't write their names down, but and since then a lot of people have climbed it, but he was the first ever to free solo climb. Jack, can I drop a bomb on you real quick? Some lingo. So I had to look this up. I wish I'd looked it up before watching the movie because I think it would have helped me understand the context of what I was about to see a little bit better. But there are two phrases in climbing that are commonly used using the word free. One is called free climb, and then there's another that's called free solo climb. So the difference is in both cases, you are completely unaided by any kind of pulley system or a ladder or anything like that. Like in other words, every handheld, every foothold that you take in ascending this mountain, this rock face or whatever, is all on you. It's on your own, your own muscle, your own body power. If it's not a free climb, you can be aided by if you're on a rope type of thing, like you're being assisted by a rope, that person can literally hoist you up the mountain for 10 feet and then let you continue from there. So, but a free climb is like this, not allowed. You have to use your own body power the entire time. Free solo climb means you don't even have a rope. And that is the big thing about this movie. Free Solo is he's doing everything that the free climbers do, but without even a rope. So basically, there's no difference as far as how the climb is done. They do the same hand grips, the same footholds, but the consequences are different because there's literally nothing to catch you.
No, and that's the thing with this movie. What's funny, folks, is if you haven't seen it, you could listen to us talk about it. This is actually one movie that you can listen to us talk on this, and I guess there'll be spoilers. It's a true story, and this guy, I'm just gonna say it. This guy doesn't die, so I'm just know. The only big shock to this would be if he'd hurtled to the earth and splatted.
No, I guess I let that out of the bag already. He successfully does it.
Well, so. It's a documentary, so he. But the thing about this movie is you have to see this to understand.
Oh yeah.
What we're even talking about. It's unbelievable. The upper body strength, the arm strength, the foot strength, the strength. The kind of the way this guy is too, what's his name? What's the guy's name?
Alex.
Alex is Hammond. Is that right?
Honnold. Yeah.
That's close. Hammond is the guy that runs Jurassic Park. Dr. Hammond. But he's a different guy. Like his demeanor, and I think that actually fits him doing this, because if you were emotional whatsoever doing this, you would just die. George Costanza on Seinfeld. There's a great episode of Seinfeld where they have a cool friend guy, cool guy, and he talks George into coming rock climbing with them.
Oh yeah,
but he's with the harness and he's got rope.
Yeah,
and Kramer and George fail to secure the rope, and because George is trying to get egg salad sandwiches out of his backpack.
Makes sense.
And he falls and hurtles and breaks his face. And he actually was Elaine's boyfriend as well at the time. And then she eventually ghosts him because the fall ruined his face, because all the people on Seinfeld are jerks. So.
Yeah, I forgot. I do remember that episode now that you mentioned it.
Also, Phil, I wanted to say this. Folks, I want you to understand, I'd never really even heard of this movie. And then when you mentioned Free Solo, I'd already seen Solo. We've talked about Solo before on this show.
Oh, the Star Wars movie.
I assumed this was a new Star Wars movie. And so when we started this, I was actually a little disappointed at first. And then I got kind of into it because it was really cool. It's a really cool thing. But I was very disappointed. I thought Free Solo was maybe Han is stuck on with the Wookiees somewhere, and we have to free Solo.
Like Free Willy, but free
Solo.
Okay.
So I was a little disappointed. And I thought, we talked about Star Wars in this show and how we've done a lot of Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And so now we've done the not Star Wars movie, but I thought it was another one.
Yeah.
Maybe a sequel or a prequel to Solo.
I like that we've covered a lot of Star Wars on the show, because I think for a lot of people, Disney Plus is literally all about Star Wars. It's their Star Wars hub for all things Star Wars. But yeah, there's a lot of other content out there. This is a movie that I always wanted to see. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary.
Yes.
In the 2019, but the 2018 year of Academy Awards. And ever since then, I was like, I'm not a huge documentary. You and I have talked off air about Tiger King.
Yeah.
And I catch the big ones, the ones that everyone talks about. I've never seen a single, you've always recommended it to me, and I always want to watch them. But the is it 30 for 30? Is that
all the ESPN stuff is really good.
Okay, a lot of that stuff interests me, but I just don't take the time to watch it. Well, this was one where even a couple of years ago, and this was before Disney Plus bought. So I think some people will wonder, why is this on Disney Plus? And I had to look that up because I didn't know. It is a production. This movie is a production by National Geographic. So they do their own films and stuff like that. National Geographic, owned by 20th Century Fox. And then Disney now owns 20th Century.
That makes sense.
So it is like a, National Geographic owned by 20th Century, now owned by Disney kind of acquisition. So that's why it's on Disney Plus. And I never saw it in theaters. It actually did have a box office run. I think it was even, you could watch it here in Springfield, where we're from, Springfield, Missouri. And so it got, as far as documentaries go, it got a lot of acclaim and a lot of clout from reviewers and stuff like that. So definitely one worth watching. But let's go back to, you're talking about his personality and just how this guy ticks, what makes him tick. And I want to talk about that a little bit. They actually didn't shy away from that, and there's a couple scenes, and I didn't take offense to anything that anyone was saying at all, but they talked about how his father probably had Asperger's, how Alex hasn't been diagnosed with anything, but everyone kind of feels like something's a little off with him, and the guys that are filming, the literal camera crew for this documentary, are even making comments about like, oh, I actually saw Alex smile today. That's very different for Alex or whatever. And so he is this kind of very stoic, very, I forget what my wife called it. I watched this with Jessica. Flat effect, I think is what the phrase that she used.
A Vulcan. He's kind of like Spock.
They call him Spock at one point in the movie.
He's very much like that, and like his girlfriend likes that about him.
Yeah.
Like she's like she appreciates that about him, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when I say that, folks don't think I'm saying anything wrong with him. He just his personality is like he's very even keel on his personality, emotionally. Like he's cool with whatever. Like he's not. He honestly though gives a little bit of a surfer vibe, a little bit, like where he's just chill and
he's born and raised in California.
Yeah,
so.
He lives in his van.
Yep. Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah, and dude, that van was kind of cool. Like, at the end of, in documentaries will do this, I think, to any watcher. But after watching the documentary, I got to the end of it, I was like, I think I could live in a van like that. Like, yeah, because he cooks all his own food inside the van. Yeah. It's basically an RV. It's just a really small one.
But for one dude, yeah, that's not bad.
His girlfriend would like sleep in there with him and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's kind of a cool thing. I read online that the reason for the van isn't necessarily because he's a hippie, although I think you could kind of make those comparisons. But it's mainly for convenience because he, quote, follows the weather. And there's some discussion about this in the movie too, about like you can only climb this particular rock face in these months, or like if you start too late in the day, you'll hit the sun, like the sun will beat down on you at the point. Like they think about all these kinds of things, like because their life is on the line, especially if you're free soloing.
Yeah.
And so you don't climb in the summer, you don't climb in the winter. There's all these rules, right? And so he lives in a van literally so he can just kind of follow the weather. Like if it's going to be good weather on this rock face on Tuesday, I'm going to drive up there, and then on Wednesday I'm going to go down to this other place. So he needs to be like mobile. And I think most people that have a lot of money would say, "Oh, just buy an RV." But for him, he was content just living in this van. So, but anyways, they talked about his amygdala at one point in the movie, and I thought that was really interesting. You actually see him in the hospital, in the doctor's office, whatever, and they are not CAT scanning, MRI. They're MRI scanning his brain, like his literal brain. I thought it was right in the middle of like all the injury stuff, so I thought maybe they were analyzing his back or something, but no, they were flat just like checking his brain for like what makes him different. And the nurse or doctor or whatever said something about your amygdala needs more. It was something like, do you remember that part? It's like needs more. It doesn't what like thrills you. It takes a lot more to get to that thrill like level than for the rest of us. So like for the rest of us, like normal humans, just the smallest amount of influence, would kick off our amygdala. For you, it takes a lot more. And so for him, free soloing is like where he finally feels alive. Like it takes that much.
That would say a lot about thrill seekers in general and their ability to do those types of things, because they need that high, the highest of highs, to get to where they need to feel something, maybe.
Right.
Interesting.
And it's worth saying, and I think he even says it right after that line in the documentary, but it's worth saying that he's the first one to admit that it's maybe because of all the climbing that he's done in a lifetime. Like, I think he said he'd been climbing for like 20 years or something like that. Or no, maybe that was Tommy, but he's been climbing for a very long more than a decade. And it's almost like I don't mean to compare it. Climbing is a very healthy thing to do, very, very healthy. Like he's healthier than I am. But if I could compare it to like drug use for a second, like it is almost like, well, I can try meth, but then once that starts to not have an effect, then I have to go heroin. Like I have to do something harder and harder to get that same feeling. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like that's kind of what he was talking about too.
It's good that he's living clean though, if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? If he's not turning to drugs and instead he's turning to endorphins.
And one thing he's always been very public about is like, I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. Like I stay away from all that. He's super healthy. Yeah. He's essentially...
He's a vegan. He says he hasn't eaten meat.
He eats eggs. Yeah.
He stopped eating meat.
Yeah, other than eggs, he's basically vegan. And but lives very healthy.
He does not use utensils. And he did use a spoon at one point, eating cereal or something, whatever he was eating.
I didn't even think about that.
But he eats out of that spatula. Like, it's so funny that he seems to just eat off the spatula or just eat out of the bowl, because he's just him. So
That's true. I used to do that when I was single.
Why dirty another?
Yeah.
Why dirty another utensil?
Well, especially when you have limited access to water and stuff like that.
It's funny.
Yeah, he said that the worst part of living in a van was not having access to a regular shower. So
He could literally say he lives in a van down by the river.
and they did not take this. Yeah, exactly. They did not say this in the documentary, but I saw this on his Wikipedia page. But he says the craziest adjustment to owning his own home, because they actually show him like purchasing a home during the documentary, is that he has to get up to go to the bathroom instead of just grabbing his quote pee bottle.
Which is, again, this guy's a different cat.
Yeah, this isn't an RV, so there's no restroom in there in the van. So like you either just go outside of the vehicle, which you might not be able to do if there's
it's
public people around.
Yeah.
Or you run down to wherever the closest restroom, which could be quite a walk. Or you just grab the pee bottle. So don't drink out of that thing. So
Peebo.
Anyway, I feel like I've been talking a lot. What are some of the things that that really like surprised you, or like really like affected you watching?
And I'm
this?
being serious when I say this, so understand.
How much of this lifestyle did you know about? Like I
figured I kind of got it. I've seen documentaries about BMX riders and documentaries about guys that ski and guys that do all the outdoor things. I love the outdoors and I love mountains. Like I you probably know that about me, but I love the mountains. I don't want to climb.
Right.
I have no desire to do that. Now a hike is one thing, to go on a hike, but to climb a rock face, even with a jetpack that I knew was 100% safe, I probably wouldn't do that, because the thought of crashing to the ground is scary. It's very scary.
Yeah.
I think I knew about the rock climbing aspect of it just from how, remember when rock walls you started to see rock walls on things, and it was a thing.
That's what got him hooked. Like Alex started on
and him and his dad. His dad took him and that sort of thing. And his dad passed away when he was like 19.
19,
like that.
yeah.
So I knew about that aspect of it. I guess in my mind, I guess I didn't really think anyone would be willing to climb up a rock face like that without anything on. I mean, if he'll climb up that, he could literally climb up anything, Phil.
Oh yeah.
Like he could literally, if you're climbing up that, I gotta think. And now maybe a building. Now that would be. He wants to raise some funds. He could really raise funds by climbing up. I don't know, the Empire State Building.
Eiffel Tower, I think, would be a iconic climb.
Think about that.
The problem is getting governments to sign off.
Allow you to do it.
Yeah, because you literally could just fall off that building and die.
That would be fun to watch, though. But I'll say this: with that guy, he would practice up it the first time.
Yeah.
And it would be so much parody how those buildings are made. I bet he would just scale it fast the next time up.
Well, it's interesting you talk about scaling fast. He not only climbed this thing at all, free solo. I mean, just free soloing this El Capitan is insane. It's a 3,200 foot climb.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's like 2/3 of a mile.
It's the better part of a mountain. It's the better part of a better part of a mile.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the better part of a mile.
I mean, people skydive from 3,000 feet.
Oh, and that was the other thing. Amanda and I watched this, and I said to her, gosh, why didn't he at least wear a parachute?
Yeah.
Literally, because there's a point where you're falling, and if you are falling, and I could fall, and maybe I get my foot out, or maybe I just fall, and I hit that rope. If nothing else, maybe it catches on something.
Yeah.
Not only that, maybe it just opens up and I float to the ground safely.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you wear a parachute?
I think, technically speaking, I think that would be like a safety aid.
Oh.
That's what the only difference between a free climb and a free solo climb is you don't have any safety aids, no ropes of any kinds, which a parachute would be a safety aid. That's something that's going to catch you. And they talk about that because that was my biggest question going into this movie, and even about halfway through the movie, I still hadn't felt like anyone had really answered the question for me. But the question that everyone has when they go see this movie is why? Why would you do this? And I think it's about 2/3 of the movie. I finally got a little bit of an answer, and for him, I truly believe. I mean, I'm assuming some things just from watching the movie and not actually discussing this with him, but I truly believe for him it is about being the first to do it Like I think he wanted to be that acclaim.
Sure.
And for him, it is. He makes a statement. I think. Let me see if I can find it because I think I wrote it down. But he makes a statement where he basically says, "There's my handholds feel different. My footholds feel different. That move feels different when I know that." If I miss this, if I make a mistake, I'm dead. Like it's for him, it's the experience of it. It's, you talk to surfers, BMX riders. It's all about the experience, the adrenaline shot that you get, right? And he says the experience is different without a rope. It just is.
Yeah,
and
I believe that.
And you and I are just like, okay, we can't fully comprehend what that means, but for him, it makes perfect sense.
And I'm going to say this, and this sounds stupid, and I'm not trying to say it sounds stupid, but if I drive in a car with a roof on it, it's one thing. If you're driving a convertible, there's a reason someone buys a convertible.
That's a great example.
And so, like, granted, it's not the same. I'm just saying.
But you're still.
But like I'm saying, it's a different feeling. It's based on that. That's why people ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
Because it's not inside of a car. Like it's a totally.
And in both cases, you're still going 60 miles an hour down the same highway. So what's really the big difference? It's like, well, no, the experience is way different.
Wind's whipping through your hair, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the answer to why. Both of those reasons. Yeah. Honestly, it might be more about the experience than even being the first to do it. Because like whenever they kept, here's one of the most fascinating things I think from the movie. This will be a little bit of a transition out, but similar to what we were just talking about. The camera crew. The addition of having a camera crew on site changes the experience. It does, and there's no way around it. It is a necessary evil to commit this thing to film. Is that you have people watching you while you're doing it. And Alex talked about that. He said there was one guy. There were three different perspectives that they had from different guys. There was Tommy, and he says, "I've climbed El Capitan 40 times. I would never do it without a rope. Never." Like, I love climbing, but I would never do it without a rope. Then there was a second guy that was like, I would do it, but I would never have a camera crew, ever. I would only do it by myself. And then there's Alex who says, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to let them actually film me.
Gosh.
And the third perspective is interesting because the camera crew themselves, and Jimmy Chin, the director of the film, actually says this on camera at one point. He says, I'm afraid that our mere presence is going to kill him.
Sure.
And it's because of that added. There's no avoiding the fact that that's going to change the experience for Alex. And they actually said at one point in the film, I think it was from Jimmy himself, said that my biggest fear is that because he knows the cameras are on him, he's going to try a move that's riskier than he would normally do otherwise. And that move could literally kill him. And what would have happened had the cameras not been rolling, had a guy, not been repelled down the rock with a camera in your face, would he maybe not have tried that move? He says, think about the weight of being the director and having that on your conscience of like, for the rest of your life, you're now second guessing, did I kill this man?
Yeah. And did I film? Like, I'm there, and I know what you're talking about because Amanda and I were talking about this too, about the guilt. One of the cameramen can't even look at the thing. Like, he's like, yep. He can't look at it happen. He's like, there's parts of it. He's like, I can't even watch this.
Yeah, he even looks at his friends. He's like, I can't believe you guys are watching this.
It's crazy.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But, okay, so you're a coach. Yeah. You coach high school football.
And baseball.
And
about a bunch of other sports. But go ahead.
Players play differently when there's a crowd.
Yes. I would, in my head, I would love to play in front of nobody. It'd be fun. I would get as much out of it. Now, football is fun in front of people because the reaction is loud. There's normally more people there than at a basketball game or something like that, and definitely a lot more than at a baseball game for what we do. But I just love sport. I love getting a team ready to play, to go do something. I don't like kids' responses in front of a crowd because you're right, they're distracted. Right. It's one less distraction. Now I can control the thing, but it's the purpose of some sports with a purpose. Part of the purpose of sports is to perform in front of people. So right.
And I think
and I like to perform, and you know that about me. Like, I just do. Like, it's fun for me. To do something like, I write dumb songs and this and that, or we make a podcast or whatever you do, and you just, because it's fun. Like, what I'm saying? It's fun to perform. It's fun to do stuff. But like, this is different. Like, to me, this is like Evel Knievel had a crowd for things because Evel Knievel is jumping over Snake River Canyon to raise money, to make money, because that was his thing. But he also just to be like, watch this crazy thing.
Yeah.
And then he crashes.
That's what's so bizarre to me about this is because Alex doesn't strike me as the kind of personality that craves attention. Like he's not doing this for like, I mean, I'm sure it's nice to be known for something, but I don't think that he's like a showman.
Yeah.
And he actually, there's a point in the movie where he's actually talking to a high school classroom. It's the same Miraloma High School, whatever that he went to in Sacramento growing up. He goes back to it and talks to, the next generation of students. And he's just like, look, when I was in high school, I would have never stood up in front of a crowd like I am right now. And so it's, for him, I don't think it's about putting on a show, but I think for him it is documenting it, like actually like making sure that there's a camera crew videoing it and stuff like that. And I mean, spoiler alert for the end of the movie, they end up deciding to almost do a hybrid because he has a heart-to-heart conversation with the camera crew. And he's like, I don't want to bail on you guys because I promised you guys could do this documentary. So I don't want to like tell you I can't have you watching me, but I'm really kind of like thinking I can't have you watching me. And so can we do this thing where like, I know you're there in the back of my brain, but I don't see you. And they're like, yeah, we can pull that off. So they bought all these like remote cameras where they can control them from the ground or from like, around the side of the rock face so that he's being filmed, but there's not a human being right next to him.
Yeah.
You can't see another human. He's like, I think that's literally the only way I'm going to be able to pull this off is if I think I'm alone. So
think about that. I mean,
yeah.
Well, and just if folks, you got to watch this thing because like the amount of tension that there's the move I remember the most, he is about halfway up and he has to climb up and then he actually has to go over and down and then continue over. And it's the over part because he's trying to get to, because on his trial run, he maps it out how he has to go. Mm-hmm. And he figures out, well, the only way for me to really get up the spot at all is to go up, down, over, like up, over, down, over a little bit more, and then I'll be able to go up. Well, his over, the second to last over, he literally has to make a 90-degree kick out with his leg. You remember this?
They call it the karate kick.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Folks, if he loses his footing when he sticks his foot out, he dies. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He could maybe, he'll grab a rock. No, in this thing, you're not grabbing onto this thing. No. You're going to be plunging at such a high speed. You'll just break your hand and it'll keep going. Unbelievable.
They actually show a clip about halfway through the film where he's roped. Like he's obviously he practices this thing so many times.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. But he's roped. He's got a safety harness on, and he does a karate kick maneuver and misses it, and actually falls.
Yeah,
and you're just like, well, hopefully you don't do that again.
Right, and it's like the seriousness of crashing and burning like that. I can't even imagine. I mean, why would you do? I just don't know why you do it to yourself, but whatever.
I don't want to be gross, but I can't imagine what would happen to his body on impact. Like,
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But like, you can just imagine. Unrecognizable is maybe a word that people would use. But,
sure.
Anyway, I got to find this quote because it's a great thing. Yeah, this is from Tommy Caldwell. So Tommy is a very interesting character in this documentary. He's the guy that had climbed El Capitan 40 times. He actually kind of pioneered freerider, which is the route that you're talking about. Like he's the one that kind of came up with like, this is the route you should take. And so he obviously, there's no one better than Tommy to kind of Sherpa him, for lack of a better word, up the mountain and kind of show him how to do this. And so he says, I spent 20 years of my life climbing El Cap, but I would never do it without a rope. There is no margin for error. And I didn't write the next line down, but he basically says, you have to be perfect. You can't make a single mistake. And so if, he's done this 40 times over 20 years, he's probably made a mistake on all 40 of those runs. And here's the thing, the mistake is probably in a different spot every time. So if you make a mistake every single time, that just tells you don't need to free solo this. Because the 41st mistake that you make is going to be without a rope, and that's it.
Yeah.
Your life's over. So
unbelievable.
Yeah. So really interesting. Let's talk about Sanni a little bit. So she's a big part of the movie. She's the girlfriend. She could, I mean, when you first see her, you're like, this may be Yoko. Yeah.
She may end up being his Yoko Ono that ends up disbanding the band. And I'm just joking when I say that, but like you're like, oh man, like
You thought maybe he would just call it off.
well, or he had feelings to it. Now you've got something to live for.
Yep.
Which I'm not saying he was, out there running suicide missions, but like he's doing it for the thrill. He's doing it for whatever. But you see how steely he is with her.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, he's a little more affectionate. Like you see him hug a few times. At one point, he talks about how he had to learn to hug when he was 23 years old because he had never been hugged. Like his parents never hugged him. They never said "I love you." It was just one of those households. And so, yeah, he is very steely towards her, but a lot of that's because that's how he was brought up. But
yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, I thought the same thing too. When I first saw her come on the screen, I was like, why are they bringing her into this? Like, isn't this documentary all about him and his aspiration to do this? But then I caught on pretty quick of like, no, they're bringing her into the documentary because they want us to know that there's an inner conflict in his brain. Like,
yeah, and it rounds him out. Like, it helps round him out. Like, having her there helps round him out. And she's real sweet, real nice.
Yeah, she's real sweet.
They met at a book signing.
Yeah.
Like, at his book signing.
Yeah, he was doing a talk.
How rock
or something.
star. I mean, this is very rock star.
That was one thing that surprised me. I mean, there were a lot of. I didn't have any expectations. Never even seen a trailer, so I didn't know what to expect. But that was one thing that I didn't know going into this movie, that he was a known quantity. Like, I think as early as like 2009, 8 years before he did this, he was on the cover of National Geographic. I'm like, he was a big time climber.
He's the guy. Yeah.
And I think it's all because he had done a free solo before. This wasn't his first free solo. He'd done a free solo of something that was like 1,200 feet or 2,000 feet or something like that, and had instantly made himself a name. Like, every climber knew this guy's name.
Well, yeah.
So when the camera crew is like, hey, we want to follow you, this isn't some nobody. Like, he's been around the climbing scene for a long time.
Yeah.
Internationally known.
I like the to segue before we get to Sanni. To segue back to the school, when he's talking to that school.
Yeah.
Some kid asked him, which is a very kid thing to ask, how much money you got? And he's like, I am fairly successful in what I do. He's like, I am like a fairly successful dentist.
Yeah.
Which is really a funny response. Like, which then you're like, he has to have sponsorships.
Yeah.
I don't know how he would make money.
I was going to ask you about that because I don't know how he made money either. But he obviously has enough, because Jessica asked me the same thing.
Books, probably.
Yeah, book
does
sales.
I know he was at a book signing, but was he signing a book?
He was signing a book called Alone on the Wall, and I think that book was not written by him, but it's featuring him. Like, he's interviewed a lot in the book or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe he wrote part of it. But yeah, I think he had gotten some accolades from that, and then obviously some money from that. But I think it's got to be sponsorships, because he said he was getting paid on the regular. I was thinking like some kind of salary or something. I know I did read online that some of those guys actually do have sponsorships. They get money from Nike or whatever. So I don't know if he was one of those, but that's what I'm assuming. Because he said he gets like he eats like 83-cent dinners every night or something like that. So he doesn't have a home. He buys a home in the middle of the movie.
I knew what he was eating too. Like, it's like cup of noodles or like
it was like chili something.
Yeah, some random thing.
He poured like chili on top of spinach and stuff like that.
But what was the little cylinder things? I don't know. Are they sweet potatoes? Are they cut sweet potatoes? What am I looking at? Like, I was trying to figure out what I was looking at anyway.
He eats on the cheap. He obviously lives in a van, so that's not a lot of expenditure there. So he doesn't need a lot of money. But in that same interview or class presentation at the high school, he talks about how he gives a third of his income away to this foundation, the Honnold Foundation that he founded, which basically brings electricity to the 1 billion people on the planet that live without electricity. Even in 2020, it's still that way. And so, like, he, as much money or as little money, depending on your perspective, that he gets, he's giving a third of that away. So yeah, he's
a different cat.
He is a different cat.
Back to Sanni though. I segued us. He has a hard time dealing with, I think, having a girlfriend, having a significant other.
Yes.
She gets him, and it's not, and when I say this, I'm not trying to sound like you need to be needy, or the expectation is that, but she's not needy. You can tell that she is She's pretty okay with what's, at least on the camera she is.
She almost seems independent in some ways.
Yeah. At one point she drives away because he basically was like, you basically have to go away because I can't do this with people around.
Yeah.
And so she drives away. She's crying beside the road, like that sort of thing. Really the only emotions you see that are kind of like typical that might happen in a situation. She is much more affectionate than he is.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and it's like he has to learn a lot from her, so it's interesting.
So like on the subject of relationships, he did not tell his mother before he did the free solo climb, and he talks about in this and then other media that I've found too, but how he just doesn't do that. Like every time he free solos, he tells almost nobody. And the crazy thing is there are other free solo climbers in the documentary. They say, oh yeah, totally, I did the exact same thing. I don't tell anybody, and I guess they do that because Alex makes a comment of like, I don't need that extra pressure. I don't need that extra influence in my head. Like I need my headspace to be clear as possible.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm just amazed that he had a girlfriend at all.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you even want to bring that into your life of like feeling like, oh, I shouldn't do that move. I shouldn't make that jump or that karate kick or whatever because I've got a girlfriend that's hoping I survive this and waiting for me at the bottom, you know?
Yeah.
So I told Jessica, I was watching it with my wife and I said, would you ever be able to be married to somebody do this? Do you think that like if we didn't know each other and we were just friends, would you advise that I get married and have this kind of lifestyle? She said, absolutely not.
No way.
There's no way. No way. Like if he's going to continue doing this for the rest of his life, he shouldn't get married. I did read that he and Sanni are now engaged. They got engaged in December of last year. So
she climbs a little bit too, which is really funny. He's like, she kind of climbs, I guess, which they showed her climbing a little bit. Yeah. And it's hilarious because they're like, I told Amanda, like, if I did that, right, what she's doing, I would totally be like, yeah, I'm a climber. But like, he is like,
yeah, he's like, you know what I'm saying? She's a little bit of a climber.
Yeah. So stupid.
She's pretty good, actually. On the subject of Sanni, I think it's impossible to talk about her not at least mention the scene where she lets him fall. And there's a critical injury that takes place in the middle, first third of the movie, or whatever, where she is. I learned a lot of lingo watching this movie. The gree is basically like the person that's on the ground that is feeding rope through this like double pulley kind of system.
Right. That's actually how Kramer and George almost killed the guy.
Gree.
Yes, go ahead.
They let the rope fly out?
Yeah, they didn't tie the knot.
Oh, that's right.
Because George is trying to reach into his bag and get tuna salad or ham salad or chicken salad, I mean, whatever it is.
That's right. So she does exactly what happened in Seinfeld.
They just yell at each other.
Yeah. So she's watching him. She's got her eyes on him. You're never supposed to do that. It's always eyes on the rope, right? And so she is looking at him, not noticing the rope. The rope literally runs out of rope, and I mean, imagine the heart stop of that, of like feeling there's no more rope in your hand, and he just goes plummeting down. I forget how many feet he fell, but he lands, I think, on his back. It's definitely his back that gets damaged, and they said that he had two compression fractures, I think is what they called it, in his back.
Yeah. And
so like they did this CAT scan and everything like that.
He said, I was going to break up with her immediately.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I caught that too. Yeah. He's like, I thought about breaking up with her after that. So, but I guess but then she said something like, but then she told me that, would that make you happier, like if I was gone or whatever? He's like, no, I guess not. So they stayed together. But yeah, she didn't, I mean, I don't think she almost killed him, but she definitely injured him to the point where he had to have some serious talks with the doctor of like, is this over for me? Like, can I continue my career of climbing or not?
Yoko.
Yeah, she's Yoko Ono. And so, yeah. And then that and impacts the rest of the movie because they were saying like, yes, you can still climb. No, you shouldn't for a while. You should take some time off. Yes, you're probably going to continue to have pain. He at one point like hurts his foot, and they show his foot in a like a boot, and he can't use his feet for a while. And I was like, is he going to be able to pull this off just from the level of pain and from a level of, he says, if I fall even like, he said 50 meters. I feel like that's really far. That's like 150 feet. But
yeah,
he said basically once on impact, my body would just explode. Like I've damaged my spine enough.
Yeah, but everybody would at that height.
Yeah.
What is it? 80 feet.
Yeah.
80 feet, you die.
I feel like my body would explode from 10 meters.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, how like the risk was much higher for him just because of the injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
they showed early in the movie. They showed some older footage, pictures, still pictures of people that had climbed free solo people that had fallen and died.
Yeah.
Remember this? I mean, I remember thinking it's like, it's 1980 or whatever, and someone's free soloing some, rock, and they're plummeting to the earth. And
yeah, they showed a video of Dean Potter, who's like this other big, like at the time I think, and maybe still now, Alex and Dean were kind of like two of the biggest climbers.
Yeah.
Dean actually died in 2015 from doing a stupid like wingsuit. He was a kind of a thrill seeker just in general, and he would like base jump and wingsuit and stuff like that, and he ended up crashing and killing himself. But he said there's a video where you literally see him. He's free soloing, but he does have a chute on. He has a parachute on, and you see him go for a grab. He misses it, and he just careens backwards, and he's plummeting to earth. And I was just like, man, I hope we don't have to watch. Because I didn't even know if he actually pulled it off going into this movie. I didn't know if Alex survived or not. So,
Gotcha.
But anyway, to speak to that, I wrote down this quote from Tommy. He says, "quote I think everybody who has made free soloing a big part of their life is dead now." And he talks later about how 40 of his friends had died over the years. So I guess if you're into this kind of lifestyle, you just don't get close to anybody.
Why would you?
Like, I mean, imagine, if you're into golf or surfing, even whatever, become best buds with the people around you.
Absolutely.
If you're into free solo climbing, you don't get to get close to anyone because like you don't know if they're going to be around in another year. Different world, man.
It's definitely a different world.
It's not this movie's not as salacious as Tiger King, and I love Tiger King. It's probably the best documentary I've ever seen.
Right, it's so weird.
I love. We do a whole episode about Tiger Ing if it was on Disney Plus. That movie's never coming to Disney Plus, by the way.
No, I guess if we do an offshoot podcast about a Netflix podcast, maybe it'll be on there.
Yeah.
So
it's not as salacious as Tiger King, but I think the same vibe. The one vibe that I got from this movie, from Free Solo, that I also got in Tiger King, which was, I feel like I'm getting a window into
this world,
a culture. Yeah, like these people live a life that's alien to me. Like I just don't understand it.
You and I are wrestling fans.
Yeah.
And which, if you want to listen to a wrestling podcast, friends, World Wrestling Super Show with my son Miller and Phil and I.
It's pretty good.
Check it out, World Wrestling Super Show. Anyway, that's not really why I was talking, but the wrestling culture is that way too, where it's this weird thing. Everyone eventually dies. They either have gotten addicted to painkillers or they've gotten this or that. And so it's interesting comparison between this world where they apparently die. If you're doing this, which again, if you're climbing and you're climbing free solo up things, you fall and there's no net, you're in trouble. So
yeah. I'm going to misquote this, but I'll paraphrase. At one point, one of the guys says it's like, he says it's kind of like, you're going to work one day or whatever, and if you do a bad job, oh well, you had a bad day and you come back on this job, like if you go to work on doing this kind of work and you have a bad day, you're dead. Like this, it's just over. And so it's that high risk but also high reward. Like if you can pull it off. So let's talk a little bit about some of the techniques. I think we'll maybe go another 10 minutes or so on this movie, but he talks about crack climbing, and again, a lot of this stuff was foreign to me. I wrote down some of the lingo. Is like left foot out to a ledge around the corner, push away in the corner, grab this down, pulling right hand flat like a small crimp, left hand to the undercling, switch your feet on the rail, and then reach around through the jugs. I don't know what any of that means. But one thing that I did catch on to was he's talking about crack climbing. And one thing I've been to Yosemite many times, but I never analyzed any rocks. Like these guys analyze rocks. But they apparently 2,000 feet of this 3,200 feet, 200-foot ascent is literally a crack. There's just a crack that goes vertical right up the middle of the rock. And that's the only way up because there are no like footholds or anything anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Like the roundness of that thing when they first showed it on there, you're like, well, how would you
it's
even?
It's pure granite.
How would you palm that to get it up there or get your fingertips onto anything or your feet? You're just gonna slide down it or just fall off of it.
Yeah,
and that makes more sense to climb up because you're literally like just.
It's the only consistent way to get up.
Yeah, but even then, the thought of your grip strength and lodging yourself in this crack because you see that a few times.
Oh yeah.
Miller was watching it with us, and he was basically like, "Is he gonna get stuck?" Because there's one point where he's like half his body's in that crack, and then like there's a couple birds that fly out and around, and I thought, you think the birds are really gonna be like attack his head? That's gonna be how he falls.
Yeah.
As they peck on his hand, and he's like, oh no, like a cartoon.
But he talks about the technique of, it's not the whole way up, but a lot of the way up. Crack climbing, there's, like you said, it's flat granite. Like there's nothing for your foot to actually grip onto.
Sure.
And so he says it's all arm strength. You're literally, your foot is only attached to the rock because you're pulling your body into the rock. So imagine, and you're doing that for 2,000 feet. So imagine like having the upper body arm strength to literally Spider-Man like pull yourself into the rock, and then your foot is just on flat surface. So the only reason that's keeping it from falling is because of the force of your body.
It makes my hands. I'm telling
getting
you,
pulled against the rock.
It makes my hands sweat right now. I even think about like that idea of like.
And if he talks about like if your hands slip, it's over.
Have you ever had,
your foot isn't going to save you.
Have you ever had the dream of climbing and falling?
Oh yeah.
Well, isn't that weird? Like you think about that, and like this is like a nightmare to me.
Yeah.
Like that idea of like I've got to climb up something that's impossible, or like and you guys can't see my hand, but you can't have what shape I'm making with my hand, but an angle, like an inverted angle, where you have to climb up, but at a back angle.
Yeah.
Like that would like that's what this is like this weird, like impossible, like
yeah.
How do I even get to the top of? It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing that it's climbable at all. I think Tommy actually has the quote earlier in the movie where he's like you see this 3,200 foot solid piece of granite and you're thinking that's impossible. Like no one could ever climb that, but it is possible. It's just like it's for this like 1% of 1% of climbers that can even try to attempt it.
Yeah.
And none of them are going to do it without a rope. Like they're all going to have some kind of safety net, but. I also wanted to talk about, we talked about it briefly, like the time of day, time of year type of thing. At one point, and this shocked me, I would never thought this would even be a part of the picture, but did you see like the headlamp? He's wearing a headlamp at some points because the first, and it's worth mentioning, he makes 2 goes at it at the free solo.
And he doesn't freeze up, but he just like says, I can't do this.
Yeah, he bails on the first one.
Yeah.
I think he was maybe a third, maybe less than a third, maybe like a fourth of the way up, and he just like, this doesn't feel right. I'm bailing. I'm out. And he basically wigs out. And that was in the fall of 2016 or 2016.
Yes.
And then he didn't actually perform it again until spring. Like it took 6 months for him to get back on that horse.
Yeah, which by the way, at time of recording, 3 days ago, time of recording was the 3-year anniversary of it.
Yeah, I didn't even plan that. Like I didn't
Look
even
at
know.
us.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Yeah, it was in June.
Planning things.
Yeah, June of 2017. So, yeah, but and I found his Facebook profile, Alex's, and he was talking about, hey, I can't believe it's been 3 years and blah blah blah. But yeah, so the timing of it's pretty cool. But he would start at 4 a.m, or at least he did that first time. The alarm went off at like 3:15 or something like that, and threw on his clothes and basically started the ascent at 4.
You think he just peed his pants if he had to pee climbing?
Yeah, because they said that he finished in just shy of 4 hours. He was on the rock for like 3:56 or something like that.
Gosh.
That's a long time without urinating, unless you
or just all the things. I mean, he didn't have water with him either.
I guess not.
The only thing he has on is this little pouch in the back.
Chalk.
It has chalk in it.
Yeah.
And not very much chalk, just enough to get his hand fucked up.
By the way, do you remember, or did you know, I don't think they mentioned this on the documentary, but do you know what else was in that bag besides the chalk?
No.
Microphone.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how they didn't want to like have anything on his shirts, like anything that would hinder him. Like you think, oh, a little baby microphone. It's like no, like nothing on his shirt. Like he would not allow anything on his body at all. But they're like, okay, we're not close enough to you. The cameras, the remote cameras will maybe pick up a little audio, but there's no humans repelled next to you like they were doing during all the trial runs. They're like, we need audio from you just in case we want to capture some of that for the documentary. He's like, you can put it in my chalk bag. You're not going to put a microphone anywhere on my body. So, anyway, so he starts at 4 a.m. It's pitch dark outside. Like, I don't think the sun comes up in the spring until 7:30 or 8, and so literally the first couple hours of his climb is in the dark. So he's got a headlamp on his head so that he can see enough of the rock that's in front of him. It's dark enough where he can't see his hand in front of his face. So he's climbing this in the dark with no rope. I was like, what is this guy doing? But he did that for a specific reason, and that's because of the sun beat down part. So changes it, yeah. I think it's the crack part, whatever, where he's like, you do not want the sun beating down on you when you're doing that. Because imagine like you got chalk, but your hands are starting to sweat.
Oh, like, again, yeah. He's like, insane to think about.
You want to do this before it gets hot.
Yeah,
like before the sun actually comes out. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So. Yeah, this is a watch. If you've listened to all this podcast and haven't seen the movie, this is one of those that you can't really spoil.
You need to go watch it, or you need to just fire up the old Disney Plus and watch it.
Yeah, it's if you have Disney Plus, you already own a copy of this movie. It's from like the beginning to the start of the credits. It's like an hour and 35. It's not a huge long watch, and it is no pun intended, gripping from beginning to end. Like. It's really a very unique look at a very unique man.
Sure.
And I think I agree with one of the movie reviews that I saw, like a brief like one-liner statement of, they were saying, you have to watch this film because there might not ever be someone like Alex. He did this 3 years ago. No one's ever done it since then. So like he may literally be the only person, maybe not forever, but in the next decade or whatever, the only person to actually attempt this and do it. Like he is such a unique guy. I'm so glad we got this on film, because when is this ever going to happen again?
Right.
So it's crazy. It is lightning in a bottle, this movie, and it's worth watching just because of that.
It's insane.
So, any other comments on the
film? I again, this is one of those things that if you're not into it, you're not going to do it. The level of thrill that this must get you is, I don't know what to compare it to. Like, it's one of the most dangerous things you could possibly do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things that are more dangerous that people do that's at all like believable. I mean, there are other things people do that are stupid that are.
Yeah.
But this is just like him out climbing.
Well, and especially a career, like this is his salaried job, is to climb things basically.
Right.
And the closest thing I could think of it would be like people that work on cell phone towers. They have to climb these monstrosity towers that are like, 30 stories in the air or whatever. But of course, that's nothing. I mean, this is a 3,200 foot. If you let's just assume that 10 feet equals a story, like a story of a building. So a 320 story building.
Yeah.
Like. It's mind-boggling how at the end of the film, when he gets all the way to the top, or even almost to the top, and they do those downward shots where you can see the trees down below, I can't even make out trees. Like I just see like just a sea of green.
Well,
down there.
He's the way it looks, the distance he's up there is unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So like people talk about like Mile High City, like if you go to Denver, and like if you're not used to that, if you're like at a sea level kind of, you live on the beach or whatever, and then you fly to Denver, you get off the plane and it's a little hard to breathe for like a few hours because your body is adjusting to being 5,000 feet above sea level. He was 3,200 feet above. I mean, not above sea level, whatever, from the ground. Like he ascended that much altitude in 4 hours. So. And he did it very fast, by the way. And he talks about in various articles and interviews that he's done about how he's like, I have to do it fast. Like I can't. I'm so worried about fatigue setting in, and then me missing a grip that I would never have missed in a million years, but because my arm was starting to give out on me, I missed it, and then that was it. I died. So he said I have to do it fast. And you think about like, dude, don't do it fast. Take your time. Like you don't have a rope, But he's like, no, I got to do it fast because that's the only way I'm going to get it done. So crazy. He is Jimmy Chin, the director, called it. I'm going to paraphrase. He called it the most impressive feat of athleticism in any form ever.
Yeah, that's why I'm struggling to come up with what you would even compare it to. Like, I don't even know what you would.
Like these people we idolize, like quarterbacks for like NFL teams and stuff like that. They're doing impressive stuff.
Yeah, and it's their natural ability that's been practiced up.
Yeah.
To become that.
Yeah.
This is just like a freakish, like, no one can do this.
It looks
not everybody can do this, and it's a small amount of people that could even would want to do this.
It looks non-human.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a human shouldn't be able to do what he's doing.
Right, he's like a mountain goat.
Yeah, or Spider-Man.
Or Spider-Man.
Yeah, even Spider-Man, I think would get pretty tired.
And also, Spider-Man's not real, and all those movies are CGI'd, and this is real life.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the quote now. This is what Tommy said. He said, free solo climbing is like performing in an Olympic event where if you don't get the gold medal, you die. That's so perfect.
It's weird. Like, it's not logical at all.
Yeah, it's like who would you go to the Olympics if you knew that they shoot you if you don't get the gold medal? They just literally shoot you in the head.
I almost made maybe it's the wrong time to say that, but like, the 1936 Olympics that were hosted in Berlin.
Yeah. Not outside the
Adolf was there. Maybe then.
Yeah, around the possibility.
But I don't know.
So, well, cool. I am so glad that we did this movie. I think it's one of the most interesting things we've done. I love the Star Wars stuff.
But it shows you the depth of Disney Plus, man.
It's cool. And I honestly, like, I've not been as compelled to watch the Disney documentaries, like One Day at Disney or whatever.
It's stuff you've seen in some way or another and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, I don't know, if I was really into like Disney parks, I grew up going to Disney parks every year growing up, but even though I'm not like a Disney park freak where I want to know all the behind the scenes stuff, but I don't know, if you're listening to this and you've seen some of the Disney documentary stuff and you think, hey, no, seriously, if you're interested in documentaries at all, if you liked Free Solo, you'll love this. Let us know, because I'm always down to watch something that might be interesting to do. So, Jack, what else have you been watching on Disney
Miller
Plus?
has been Miller, come here real quick. Miller has been binge watching a certain show. Miller, come over here. Hustle. Tell folks what show you have been binge watching. Go to this one.
Okay. Yeah, that mic's not
on. DuckTales, old school.
Original DuckTales.
What's your favorite thing about original DuckTales?
Huey, Dewey, and Louie have the cutest voice ever.
They are cute.
They do.
What are some of the characters that are on DuckTales that are different in the old DuckTales than they are in the new DuckTales?
Definitely Huey, Dewey, and Louie, because,
they're nicer kids. They're a little
they're
snarky.
The personality is very different.
Mm-hmm.
How about Doofus?
Oh my gosh,
He's totally different, isn't he?
He's so different. He's so nice.
Yeah,
he's like the nicest guy in the whole entire thing.
And then what about
and then now he's like mean. And he knows so much stuff.
Gyro, that's the inventor?
Dude, Gyro is way politer.
Who's the unicycle part robot? Is that Gyro? No.
It's,
Gizmo Duck.
Gizmo Duck. Is Gizmo
similar, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he about the same?
Similar.
Mm-hmm.
Launchpad's pretty similar too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Cool. Which would you
Except he doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. Do you prefer the old show or the new one?
Both.
You like them the same?
But I like that. I like the old one a bit more, just a bit.
They're nicer on there, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's way better, and it's pretty kid friendly.
It is very kid friendly.
Miller, here's what I'm sure your dad has already told you this, but what you need to know about the original DuckTales is that even as it was airing new episodes, it was in the middle of airing those original shows, it was a massive success amongst everybody. I didn't know anyone who wasn't watching DuckTales.
Yeah, it's crazy. Dude,
It's
awesome.
It's one of the best animated shows of all time, and there's a lot of other shows that are like that. Like a lot of the Marvel stuff is on Disney Plus that are, some of the best shows
And
of all
Darkwing
time.
Duck.
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck.
What was the other thing I was about to say?
Let's get dangerous.
Let's get dangerous. Cool. What have you been watching, Phil?
I don't think I watched. No. Yeah. Well. I mostly watch Disney Plus with my daughter when she wants to watch something.
Sure.
So yeah, her choice this week was Lilo and Stitch yet again. So
Okay.
we watched the
Right.
first movie.
Right.
The first movie. We also watched. Now, I know how you feel about these movies, but she loved it. We in the last 2 weeks, because we didn't have time to talk about it on last week's episode. She in the last 2 weeks has watched both Cars and Cars 2. And
Cars is good.
Yeah.
Cars 3 is good. Cars 2 is not good.
It's kind of a piece of junk, but
I'm sure she thought
for some reason she loved it, and I did not think she would, because it's basically a Bond film. It's a James Bond film,
and unnecessarily so. like they didn't need to go do that, but they decided this is the direction we're going to go with it.
Yeah. The Bond girl in this movie, it was obviously a car. Her name is Treadwell or whatever, like instead of like Shagwell or whatever. So, but I do like Michael Caine. He does I think a pretty good job of being that kind of super sleuth MI6 kind of guy. But boy, it is kind of the Mater show, and you either love Mater or he kind of grinds your gears to
pun intended
to use a pun. And boy, he gets super annoying in this movie. That much Mater is a little too much.
It's the worst Pixar movie, don't you think?
It probably
Maybe?
is. Oh yeah, I think most people would put it in their bottom 3 for sure. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people put Cars 3 pretty low too. But she liked it, and she's 3, so she's gonna like anything. But there were, I say that there were definitely moments where she was starting to check out a little bit. So, and that's a bad sign when you have a 3-year-old that is watching animated goodness.
And it's normally really into that stuff.
Yeah, she loves Pixar, anything by Pixar. So, yeah, she hung on though, and her favorite parts were the races. She likes the action scenes where they're racing their cars, and she wants Lightning to win and stuff like that. But I don't know. Lightning McQueen is barely in the movie. It's mostly the Mater show, and
it's the weirdest
thing.
A
lot of spy stuff. I just don't understand the reason to make that film the way they did.
Larry the Cable Guy was a big commodity then, apparently. Yeah. And they were all like, okay, you're gonna like him. If not, then too bad.
Lilo and Stitch is just as good the second time. We really enjoyed that. So she says she wants to watch Cars 3 next. She wants to keep going.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine.
Speaking of watching things next, we are going to have a guest on next week. I don't know if I told you that or if you saw that on Facebook, but Jerry McMullen wants to come back on the show. Yeah, I'm super excited. So we've had Jerry on before for 1 or 2 episodes previously.
He'll probably correct us if I say only 1, and he'll probably say it's 2, but I feel like it's only 1.
I feel like we've had Jerry McMullen on so many times on the other podcast we used to do. But yeah, I feel like it's just maybe one time, but it's certainly been too long since we've had him on. So I'm very excited to do it.
Talked about the black hole.
The black hole is the one I remember. I don't think he's been on another episode for this show, for Disney Plus. I think that's right. Just black hole. But anyway, he didn't come on for Mandalorian, did he? I'm starting to second guess myself now.
No, he didn't, because we
don't hate us, Jerry. If we
no, I don't think he did.
So what he wants to, he actually
we were selfish, and I don't think we wanted anybody else to talk about that.
He gave us a couple different options, and I'm not trying to get political at all by saying this, but the one I wanted to go with was Glory Road. So sure. I've never seen Glory Road. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, and I knew you would be totally down for a sports movie.
It's so great. Like it's a great movie.
Good. I'm excited to watch it. I like sports movies, and I think in our present day climate, with everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter and everything like that, a very uplifting story about coaching an all-black basketball team I'm totally down for that. Cool. So I'm very excited to watch that. So, and he agreed. He said there's probably never been a better time to talk about Glory Road than this week. So, so that's your homework assignment if you're listening to this and kind of following along with us and watching the same movies. We're going to watch Glory Road. You can watch it on Disney Plus, and then we will discuss it next weekend, which is, we record on Sunday, so it'll be the Sunday the 14th. Cool. Probably come out that same night or at the latest Monday the 15th.
Beautiful.
So, Glory Road is what we want to do next time. Any closing thoughts for the listeners at home, Jack?
No, man. Disney Plus just has all kinds of crazy stuff. Artemis Fowl comes out.
Oh yeah.
Did it already come out?
No, it's July.
It comes out this week, I think.
Oh, is it this week? Okay.
Yeah, so that's another one we need to
cover
talk about fairly quickly. So
yeah, after Glory Road, we'll
maybe give
we'll
folks time to watch it. But it's highly recommend it, and I've never seen it. But like I was telling Miller the other day that I read when I first started teaching, I read these books to a bunch of my kids in class. Like at the end of class, I would read to those kids. And I remember reading like 4 of those books, 3 of those books. And I remember thinking at the time This is gonna be a great movie. If someone will just do it and get the right thing going, and it's done well, it'll be great. And it's taken this long, and it's probably too far. It's probably one of those movies that, from a book standpoint, they should have did it when the books were out, almost 20 years ago. Not 20 years ago now, almost.
Wow. Okay.
And it's almost like too late, but not, because it'll be good. Like Disney did it, so it'll at least have some value, especially on a streaming service. Now the expectation's lower. It's about perfect for what it needs to be, because had it come out during the time the Harry Potter movies were coming out, everyone would have said, oh, this is just some Harry Potter thing, rip-off thing. Right. It's totally different. Like, it's a lot different. I mean,
considering, like, listening to all that, like, I almost wonder if this isn't the perfect time to release a movie like this.
Onward is fairly recently came out.
Yeah.
It deals with some of the same things. This pixie, supernatural, magical land type situation.
I think in the next couple of years, we're going to start to kind of see this divide of, like, do we make our movie straight to Disney Plus and get new subscribers because the movie came out?
And even
that?
Netflix has already started. Has started that a few years ago with things, and I think that's a viable thing. I honestly, guys, I understand this about me. Like I want more movies to be made. I want more TV shows to be made, because, brutal honesty, that makes more people have jobs.
Yeah.
Like, it makes more production crews have jobs, makes more actors have jobs. It keeps people in things. There's an unlimited amount of places for this content to go now. Yeah. And I really, like, economy-wise, I want the economy to get going again, so you can see more movies like this or more things. Like, it's good. It's not a bad thing. Like, so, like, if they can have a tier system where it's like, okay, this is a theater release movie. If this is a straight on-demand movie. If this is maybe just a rental. If this is just a free thing on NBC's website. I you know what I'm saying? I don't even know, but, like, I think there's value in that. Like, I think there's value in having a leveled system like that.
I've been saying this for months now, but, like,
studios should go to that. If they're smart, they would start that and not be like, no, we must put it in the theater. Herbie retweeted 2.0. Herbie, reboot it. No, don't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, just put it on. Whatever.
I've been impressed with the movies that are of this high quality that are coming straight to the service. Like, I think gone are the days of, like, oh, that's a straight to video Aladdin. That's Aladdin 2 or whatever, Return to Jafar or whatever. It's like, no, this is a legit movie. It was supposed to come to theaters, and it's just coming to the service as well. You just get it for free if you're already paying your $6.99 a month. Right. So I think it took COVID to force studios like Disney to say, do we even release this in theaters? But I hope it becomes something they do on purpose in the future.
Right. So. And that's the AMC thing we talked about, how AMC is really, man, they're going to struggle. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But it shows you, like, the theaters, it's almost like a union type situation where the theaters have their own little piece of the pie and or a racket. I don't say a union, but like a racket of some kind where the theaters have their piece of the pie and the studios have their piece of the pie, and they each don't want to let go of their piece of the pie. And I think if they would just rethink their inks a little bit and put their heads together, they all could benefit from it. But I think theaters are afraid of losing their hats if they don't buckle down some. So who knows?
Weird world that we live in.
Weird world.
Well. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. Let us know what you want to hear about on the podcast. Recommend some documentaries or some other things that you want to hear us review. And give us your own review of Free Solo if you watched that recently, or just we've piqued your interest and it makes you want to watch it this week. Let us know what you thought about the movie. Again, we are talking about Glory Road next week, which I'm very excited to watch for the first time for me. And then I think Jerry and Jack have both seen it, and I'm sure they'll enjoy coming back around to it. Write the show at DisneyPlusReviews@hotmail.com. We'd love to include you in what's going on, and we will see you next time for Glory Road.
Bye.